And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And of course, I'm back in the States. So we had the election yesterday, and the results are in. Zohran Mamdani is the mayor-elect for New York City for 2026. So the question is this: what are the implications for New York City? And ultimately, what are the implications on a nationwide level when it comes to the Democratic Party now with Zohran Mamdani? What does this mean for the NYPD? What does this mean for Rikers? What does this mean for the plans that we heard as far as social workers being the top of the pecking order for the NYPD? What does this mean ultimately for everyday New Yorkers? So we've had our predictions. I supported Curtis Lewa. So was John. So was Marlon. So was the Finest Unfiltered Network. I still support him. Even though he lost on paper, I still believe he won. He won because he fought to the end. And that's what's important. Fighting to the end. So, Curtis, if you're listening right now, don't forget those that betrayed you. Don't forget. Because remember who was loyal. And God bless you for staying in that fight. And you know what? We have to tip our hats to Curtis Lewa because he worked so hard day in and day out. And I still believe the streets do love him. So, were the polls right? Absolutely not. They were wrong about everything. Even Curtis Lewa, his numbers were actually wrong in comparison to what the predictions were. So, let's get right into it. That's it. Listen, it's a somber day. It's a somber day. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't see it. I didn't see Mamdani picking up another 500,000 votes in the general. I'm like, nah, he's capped out. Eric Adams guys moved over to him. I can't see him picking up 500,000 votes with zero policy. You know, a far left policy, a narrative that he's for the working people, but, you know, he's not going to hire Marlon back. I just couldn't believe that. I guess I was naive. I didn't really believe there was over 1 million New Yorkers who believed that they would embrace communism. You know, I was right about a few things though. I was right. I said Cuomo couldn't win. He couldn't. Even if every Sliwa voter voted for Cuomo, which was never happening, and we told you that, he still doesn't win. The numbers were in. Socialism is that New York City's overwhelmingly voted for socialism. But, you know, I was more deflated last night, not because Curtis Lewa lost, but how he lost. He didn't pick up any district. He didn't win anywhere. I mean, I think it was absolutely disgraceful. I think, let me pull this map up. You see the brown and you see the blue in the map of New York City. The brown's Cuomo. The blue is Zohran Mamdani. That's the election map. So New York City is solid blue. It's a Democratic city. I don't know why anyone like Curtis Lewa, a working class guy of little means, would ever try to get involved in politics in New York City ever again. GOP turned their back on him. New York City voters turned their back on him. And if this is the blueprint for America, I'm going to start traveling overseas with you, Eric, because this country's not going to last too long. It's going to be swept by a wave of socialism. Or like Marlon said, it's just going to become very tribalistic. The red areas are going to get redder and the blue areas are going to get bluer. But it was an absolute disgrace. All the people on Staten Island, the Republicans, the supposed conservative media, it's a right to lose an election. It's not a right to hand it over to the Democratic Party. And that's exactly what you did. You failed. You voted for a guy who had the highest unfavorability rating. And I'm not going to say that you handed the election to Zohran Mamdani, but you handed future elections to socialists because you showed every hardworking New Yorker that if they come out and they fight against the system, you're not even going to stand with them. So I'm deflated about that more than I'm deflated about losing an election, because most of the candidates my entire life living in New York City for 42 years I voted for lost the election. So I'm not worried about losing an election. I'm worried about where the hell are the fight in New York City residents. Is this the fight that Republicans are going to put up across the country? Is this what we're going to do now? Is like, what do you think this has for the governor race? What are we going to do now? We're going to back Kathy Hochul for the governor race, and we're going to say we can't tell Lee Stefanik, the Republican nominee, to drop out, and let's endorse Kathy Hochul because Mamdani's far left socialist candidate is now coming up.
Yeah, good morning, guys. The day after, huh? Yeah. It was. I was telling Eric earlier this morning that I went to move my car. I parked like 10 blocks away, and I had to move my car. The meter is only 2 hours, so I walked to move it. I come back 15 minutes later, and the mood had changed completely. It's like the oxygen had left the room. I come back and I see people on the street walking away from the venue, and I overheard them saying they may never vote again. Then I get to the venue, and there's a guy outside ranting and angry about the way about things. And then I go inside, and everyone's looking dour and sad. And 15 minutes ago, there was a lot of energy in the room. So suffice to say, a lot of people are disappointed in the results, and I myself, I'm call me conspiracist or whatever, but I'm skeptical about those results. 7%. I mean, I talked to a lot of people who told me they were voting for Curtis, and told me that the reason why is because they didn't like Cuomo, and they didn't see that Zohran had a plan. So to see 7% here, I just can't believe that number at all. I can't. Now, if you told me Cuomo was in the 30s, I would believe it. But 7% for Curtis is to me, it's like where's the fight in this city if that's the case?
So there's a lot of flashpoints going on here, and I have several questions when it comes to this now. So for the past few months, of course, I'll leave the cops anonymous. Numerous cops have told me through text, DMs, different social media interactions I've had, that if Zohran Mamdani is elected, that they're going to resign, retire, or just completely quit and leave. So here's my question. Zohran won. Should we see the pension section lined up today? Will the phone calls at the pension section be bombarded with cops resigning and leaving? And the answer is no. I highly doubt it. So that's my point. We've already seen a mass exodus. We've already seen the attrition rate, the retention rate with the NYPD at an epic fail under not former. He's still the mayor for 2 more months. Mayor Eric Adams. So I don't think it's going to be any different under Zohran Mamdani. So my question at this point is, will we see some former NYPD chiefs simping right now? Are they on ChatGPT looking for a speech on what to or putting together a resume? Yep, for Zohran Mamdani. Because what do we know? With Zohran Mamdani being elected, there's going to be cultural shifts and policy shifts within the NYPD immediately once he becomes mayor. Because he's already said it. That's his campaign. And anytime that you're put in a position of leadership, ultimately, you're supposed to make change right away. So I think the change is going to come with the NYPD. It's going to be severe implications. And so my message to the cops out there right now, especially the rank and file, if you're out there and you're doing intrusive police work and you've already been hit with a civilian complaint, or you may have been involved in a situation that you think is going to derive a complaint, you need to be aware. You need to be careful right now, especially if the Civilian Complaint Review Board is going to have the final say on discipline, especially since the Civilian Complaint Review Board has 18 months with the statute of limitations. So cops have to beware. But are cops going to leave in any different capacity than they did before? Absolutely not. I believe what they'll do is exactly what John said last time. So spot on for saying that. They'll do exactly what I used to say years ago. They'll be called with retired active duty. So they'll still be active on the job, but they won't be doing police work. They'll find ways to hide. So we're going to have a lot of empty suits. Can we blame them? Absolutely not.
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, again, I'm just like solely stuck on what's the future. What's the future look like for Republicans in New York City? And I just got a text right now. You should listen to WABC, what they're telling you. They're praising Andrew Cuomo. Sid Rosenberg right now is on the air. He's praising Andrew Cuomo. He's saying that Andrew Cuomo needs to run for governor because a Republican can't win. Do you see what you did? Like, do you see it yet? Like, and that was my whole point, is like, we could have stayed strong and everybody broke ranks. That's what it is. Everybody broke ranks and we gave up Staten Island. Like, so I was out at the polling site in my neighborhood in Dungan Hills, and I was there with Matt Connor for Bravest for Choice, and we were there for hours, dude. Board of Elections came out on us. The cops came out on us. Shout out to all the cops. Shout out to the Board of Elections. They did a great job. But we were 100 feet away from the door, which is the law, and we were advocating for Sliwa, and it was like overwhelmingly Sliwa. Overwhelmingly. We had some Cuomo. I'm shocked that Staten Island 22% voted for Mamdani, but there were like one or two people in my neighborhood that was saying, yeah, no, I'm voting for Mamdani. And so I was shocked about that. There were other people coming there with PD shirts on. And I'm like, you better not be voting for Andrew Cuomo. Like, are you kidding me? Like, he released 43 cop killers and you're wearing a shirt from a dead cop. Are you out of your mind? And so like, this is going to have huge implications in New York. You basically gave away the Republican Party. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So yeah, so I was wrong about a lot of things. I underestimated how many dumb New Yorkers there are that not only would over 1 million people vote for Zohran Mamdani, and he was unbeatable. He was unbeatable. It didn't matter if who dropped out or you dropped out or this guy ran. He was unbeatable. So it's the largest turnout we've had in so many years. I mean, this was one of the largest turnouts. I mean, I was happy about it because I was like, oh, wow, people are getting involved. But they ran out and they voted for Zohran Mamdani. And then, I'm still really pissed about the whole Trump thing because I don't know how that shifted the votes either. Because look. I like Donald Trump. I voted for him 3 times, but I'm not a sycophant. I take my messaging from one person, God, and that's it. Not Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't my Lord and Savior, right? So when he comes out and he says he endorses Andrew Cuomo, it definitely hurts Curtis Sliwa. I mean, nobody thought Curtis Sliwa was going to get 7% of the vote. Jim Walden said he's not getting more than 14. The polls all had him at around 20-something%. No one saw him at 7%. Was that a result of Donald Trump and Elon Musk coming out and saying that, oh, you need to back Andrew Cuomo? Probably. I think the propaganda and the messaging worked, but how did it work? What did it do? Did it affect the turnout of the election? No, but it affected the turnout of every election going forward. Because it just showed you that you shouldn't run if you're a Republican. You shouldn't even vote if you're a Republican. That's what it's showing you there because there's only 100,000 of you across the city. There's 147,000 Spartans in New York City. The rest of yous are subservient to the far left Democrat. That's what it is. And then the other thing is, like, a lot of people were saying that like Trump's endorsement of Andrew Cuomo hurt Andrew Cuomo, and I agree with that. How much? I don't know. Could that have invigorated more people in New York City to go out and vote for Zohran Mamdani? Absolutely. And I gotta laugh because I think nationally, I think the GOP, I think they're a bunch of cucks like Mike Lawler and Joe Borelli. I think they're a bunch of soft-bodied, small-shouldered cowards who will bend over at any chance they get for anybody. So I think, yeah, that's the national GOP on a whole. That you look at those two guys, they're your picture perfect GOP representative. Cowards, right? And so you look at those guys, or they're flip-flopping, or they're going to be on WABC like, yeah, Andrew Cuomo is not that bad. And so this is what it is. Like, this is who we have representing us. And is this a true representative of the working class people? It's absolutely not. I listened to Zohran's speech this morning. I couldn't listen to it last night because I was so disgusted. I wanted to throw up how disgusted I was at the turnout. This turnout is disgusting, and I felt horrible for Curtis Sliwa. The guy literally campaigned his ass off for 3 months. He was out every day, every borough, hit everywhere. The people of the city of New York love this guy, dude. Love him. He's a rock star. Everywhere we were, horns beeping, people stopping. Everybody wanted to take photos with him. Everybody wanted to be around him. And maybe he couldn't win a major New York City election, but I'm not buying the 7% either. And if it is a true reflection of the 7%, I mean, I feel really, really terrible for New York City residents. I feel terrible for myself. I feel terrible for anyone that was a city employee that has a pension, has health care, has any investments in New York City, owns property in New York City, and all of us do that. All of us have that. We're going to raise our kids in the city because your voice is going to get drowned out. Zohran Mamdani is telling you he's for the working class, but yet when it comes to the thumb of tyranny, he wants to be able to continue to press it down on people like Marlon's head, on people like Mike Cain's head, on firefighters like Tim Heaton and all these other people, and Athena Clark. And then that was the other thing that really pisses me off. You got Athena Clark, you got Elijah Diaz, you got Janine Aquafreda, you have all these great Republicans on ballot, and you simps go over and vote the Democrat line, and you give away the down ballot votes. So it has implications. Now city council's lost. We lost the city council seat in the Bronx. We just handed the city over to radicals. And now what are you going to do to try to play catch up? You're going to vote for far left progressive Democrats going forward.
Yeah. If those numbers are correct in Staten Island, you have nearly 500,000 people in Staten Island, right? And we had, we had 21% for Curtis and 22.7 for Zohran. So that means that even in Staten Island, Zohran beat Curtis. The stronghold of Staten Island. Republican stronghold.
Republicans for Cuomo.
Yeah. Cuomo got Staten Island 55%. And keep in mind now, the total voters were just 148,000 of 500,000 people. So, the majority of Staten Island couldn't even come out and vote for their future here. So I don't know what future New York City has left for any Republican candidate, any sort of grassroots populist candidate. I'm not sure if you even have a future in New York City, because when even the strongest Republican territory in the city is not even voting for the Republican candidate, what future you have already? And I many times I say the one reason why I would never go live in Staten Island right now is because, back in the old days, I actually looked at Staten Island, looking at getting a house, but a bridge stopped me because most of my family is living in Brooklyn, But now that I drive through Staten Island and I see every one of your blocks are covered in speed cameras, speed cameras, there's traffic everywhere. And now at least you had a conservative, you had neighborhoods that were kind of strongholds. I talked about before how there's a community vibe in Staten Island that isn't present in a lot of the other parts of the city, right? But now I'm asking myself, what do you have? What do you have left? I may be in a blue area here out in Queens, but your area, you only have the illusion of being in a conservative area now.
So last night was, in my opinion, was we saw a political earthquake in the election, and the win for Zohran Mamdani, I think, is just a shocker for everyone. We knew the reality. We spoke about it for months, even before Zohran Mamdani was a guest on the Finest Unfiltered. Before we spoke to him, we saw the momentum, but I think none of us ever saw the reality that he could actually become mayor, because I think we all believe that the fundamental roots of people, especially New Yorkers, is common sense and wanting a good life in New York City. And I think this now is going to have a major political shift, and it's also going to change not just a shift in leadership, but a shift in culture and just the way that we understand society. And where does that fall? To me, that falls within the NYPD. So for the rank and file right now, prepare yourselves in a different vision, in a different mission, and what public safety looks like. And I've been saying this for quite some time. If you listen to Zohran Mamdani when it comes to his plan, it's not a matter of have social media. Not social media, but social workers supplementing the NYPD as a tool. His plan is to have social workers replace the NYPD, to put the NYPD at the bottom of the pecking order and shift what public safety means. And that is a major implication, not just for New York City, I think nationwide. And the reason why is because no matter what, New York City is the center of the universe when it comes to the United States. And everything somehow economically, somehow funnels through New York City, or some way, shape, or form. People have some type of connection to New York City in some way, whether it's a business, whether even if it's your credit card, there's always a connection to New York City. Now, I spoke to someone yesterday, a friend they made in Alaska, and he's been following along. So that's why I agree, Marlon, when you say, and I see it because I travel the entire country. I see there's going to be a major divide. And I've because I spoke to so many people, but having my boots on the ground, traveling my RV throughout the entire country. And I do believe you're going to see pockets that are just completely red and pockets that are completely blue, because I saw it myself, and we're seeing a major divide. And people are bamboozled, and there's just a complete illusion when it came to this election. For instance, when I spoke to my friend in Alaska, he said, wow, it's amazing that he won, and there was only one guy to go against him. And people have this illusion that Curtis Lewa was not even in the race. So for many people, they're not aware who Curtis Lewa is. Yet Curtis Lewa had his boots on the ground. I don't feel sorry for Curtis. I don't. Rather, I'm actually proud of him, because he showed his fortitude, and no matter what, he didn't back away. He showed his loyalty. And when he gave his speech, when he conceded, I thought his speech was great. And he said that he wishes Mamdani well, because he wants well for New York City. He doesn't wish him harm, because Curtis Lewa actually cares about New York City. So I'm proud of him that he stayed. He showed that he could face the challenge the entire time. At 71 years old, he showed amazing stamina. He showed he's a true New Yorker. And I don't think Curtis Lewa, win or lose, will go anywhere. He'll still care about New York City. That's just the man that he is. So God bless him. So I don't feel sorry for him, but rather I'm proud of him. And I'm proud of the people that stood behind him and stood loyal for common sense. The numbers turned out to be so low. It's scary at this point. But now when it comes to public safety, I think there's some major implications, not just for New York City, but the entire country. Because what's going to happen now to the counterterrorism division for the NYPD, which is a lot of funding goes into that, a lot of training, a lot of safety measures, because New York City is always vulnerable to a potential attack, whether it's within or something from abroad. And though that could have implications for the entire country, because keeping New York City safe ultimately spills into the entire country. So I'm quite concerned when it comes to public safety on a local level and a national level.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Who's going to run for office? How do you hold government accountable if you can't even get people who are willing to be held accountable to you? How do you hold the government accountable when they've taken over every aspect of accountability? Why was Eric Adams able to run the crumbs crew? Why was it? Why? Because he knew no one in the Attorney General's office is coming from him. He knew no one in Trump's DOJ is coming from him, so they could do whatever they want. So he's going to do everything he wants for the next couple of months. Get what does that Sal like to say? Get wine dined and pocket lined. So there's zero accountability. So you can't hold the government accountable if you don't have people that are accountable in the government to the people. If you don't have a DOJ system or a system like that, like our system's completely broken. It's completely broken. Who's going to run for office? You're going to run for office? They're going to destroy you. They're going to destroy your wife. They're going to destroy your kids. The mainstream media is going to come after you. Everyone's going to come after you. And then your own party, the Republican Party, they're going to blame you for what the Democrats voted for. I mean, is it sick? Is it sick? And look, I'm not like, I was never not a realist about this. I mean, go back to all the things I said. I don't think Curtis Lee was a great candidate. I think they're running Curtis Lee to lose. I don't think Curtis Lee thought he was running to lose, though. I think he really cared. I think he really cares about the working people in New York City. He has actual policies with substance. Zohran Mamdani doesn't. Zohran Mamdani, basically everything is a pipe dream. Everything he put out there, except for the fact that I do think he is going to continue down the path of the Democratic Party, and their path was to always fundamentally change policing, fundamentally change public safety, ultimately make your city less safe, ensure your quality of life's going down. But don't worry, because you live in the neighborhoods they don't go to. Soho will be safe. Their neighborhoods will be safe. Their neighborhoods will have a lot of cops, and they'll be all cameraed up, and their neighborhood will get special attention. And when crimes happen, those people will be prosecuted. But your neighborhood, not so much. I'm on the BQE 2 nights ago, and I was coming back from Queens, and there was a car So I'm sitting in traffic, and then I get up to traffic, and there was a major accident. Terrible accident. Left side of the road, so in the left lane, all the way in the left lane. And when I get up to it, it looks like the car was on fire, just sitting there, abandoned, dark, no lights on. The other car is smashed to pieces, sitting there, dark, abandoned, looked like it went on fire. And I look over, and I go, where are the cops? When do you ever remember a car going on fire, a car being put out in flames, people being transported to the hospital, because they definitely went to the hospital. It was a terrible wreck. And no one's there to secure the cars on a highway. So basically, if there wasn't a traffic flow that stopped it, people would have slammed right into the back of that car. So that's the state of policing currently in New York City. Like, that should have never been allowed to happen. There should have been cops there immediately guarding that vehicle, making sure with emergency lights on so that to get into the other lane, so that everyone knows. It would alleviate the traffic and it would prevent further accidents. But even in that breakdown, even in just that small breakdown, that's Zohran Mamdani. That's what you're just gonna see less and less cops, and that's what it is now. John Shell, he was talking smack online about, show me the proof of all the people that left. So I sent them the article about how the 14,500 cops have left as of August, and we know that those numbers aren't even accurate. Those numbers were dumbed down, and that was as of August. And then he had no response, because the response is real. I mean, the NYPD has been depleted. It will continue to be depleted. Zohran Mamdani's Department of Community Safety. What is it? I mean, Marlon spelled it out for you if you guys go back. It's basically what he's doing is he's going to hire unarmed security guards for $30,000 a year. He's going to take away the pension, break down your pension, break down your health care, break down your pay. And he's going to have unarmed security guards running around New York City, and they're going to have really no authority to do anything. And when you call 911, you're going to get a horrible service. There will be no customer service. And I mean, that's basically what it's been like under Democratic rule. So again, maybe Zohran Mamdani is that speeding train to the far left at 100 miles per hour. But you voted for Andrew Cuomo, who was that speeding train to the far left at 75 miles per hour, expecting it to save you. So shame on all of you. It's absolutely disgusting. I'm holding my head high because you know what? I'm still a Republican. I'm still a conservative. I still have my morals. I still have my beliefs, but many of you don't.
Yeah. For some people to complain about Mamdani now while you voted for Cuomo is absurd to me, because you got what you voted for. You're getting the same policies you voted for, right? What's the difference? We said before, what's the difference between Cuomo and Mamdani policy-wise? Go find me those differences, okay? I mean, just yesterday, there's a video that Chris Sommerfeld put out of Mamdani walking to the voting polling location, right? Yeah. And he's asked by the media, how's he going to vote on the ballot questions on the reverse side of the sheet? He says he's voting yes on 1 through 5 and no on 6. So 1 through 5 are all beneficial to the city of yes. Okay, they're all beneficial to the city of yes. So Cuomo's down for the city of yes, and like we've said many times before, Mamdani's down for the city of yes. Besides their other policies. So again, what's the difference between both candidates? You got what you wanted, right? And the other thing, just to go back to what Eric says, if you guys don't understand what I've said before, is we're headed to a balkanized America where the red is red, the blue is even bluer. Because if you're a conservative voter in New York City right now, and you have the means to move, well, why are you going to stay here? Because your voice is getting drowned out now. Why wouldn't you move? We saw what happened during the scamdemic when a lot of people got up and they moved to Florida because they realized that the lifestyle in Florida was more consistent with their beliefs, especially as they pertain to the medical experiment, and the medical tyranny that was happening in America. Whereas you go to Florida and there was nobody wearing masks and life was normal again. It was like if you're living in two different Americas. So that's going to increase even further, as I see it here. And you might say, okay, well, it is what it is, but that's dangerous. It's dangerous because what's going to happen is you're going to have two divergent cultures at the same time in America. And eventually things like that lead to a breakup. Okay. And so it's not a good, it's not a healthy situation for America, especially as America itself. We've lost, like we don't have, in a lot of ways, we don't have any unifying culture anymore. You know, we don't have things that unify us anymore. Everything seems to be splintered. So when you have that on top of balkanized America, you have a dangerous situation that's brewing for the long-term health of the country.
Marlon, you bring up a fantastic point. So there's a great book. If anyone has a chance to read it, it's called Tribe. And it talks about how everyone is tribal and people need to be a part of a tribe. And it doesn't matter on a big level or a small spectrum. Like, for instance, all three of us are from New York City. But if we were in New York, we would find a way to be tribal, right? I would say, well, I live in Staten Island. Marlon could say he lives in Queens. John could say he lives in Brooklyn, right? But if the three of us were to travel together to Italy, we would all be Americans, right? When the three of us would travel to a different state, we would be New Yorkers. We always find a way to be tribal. So what I find the implications, the problem with this is that politics right now, and I see it on a nationwide level, is no longer about who do you think would serve you best. It's become an identity. It's become very tribal, right? So if you support the Democratic Party, there's things that people identify themselves when it comes to that Democratic Party, right? For instance, for the most part, if you see a flag in front of someone's house or on someone's lawn, unfortunately, it's come to the point in America that if you see a flag on someone's lawn or in front of their house on a pole, you can assume who they voted for. It's sad, right? So that's an identity. People identify as patriotic, and now they're voting red. They're voting red, or someone's voting blue because they respond to Democratic policies. So it's very tribal, and that's a major problem when we're not having integrated and diverse communities. Now we're having identity by politics, and that's scary because the politicians are supposed to serve the public and supposed to create and have everyone mingle together and not create division. So there's a great comment here I want to speak on. Tim Silva, a friend to the podcast, says, when it comes to the NYPD, obviously, respond, take a report, next, show up, take a report, repeat. Now I get, listen, I'm a big advocate for doing intrusive police work. What's intrusive police work? It's the bedrock and fundamentals to policing, right? That's ultimately, when Eric Adams talks about prosperity for safety, that is the prosperity for safety, especially in New York City. Doing intrusive police work. That's the police engaging people. Whether it's just a conversation, maybe someone's lost, or maybe it's engaging them because you suspect them committing a crime. Now, what Tim Silva's saying is the police officers should be empty suits. Just respond, take a report. Now, the problem is they may be put in a position where they have to take action. In my opinion, Zohran Mamdani's plan may not just make it more violent for residents of New York City, but could actually make it even more violent where the police officers are already vulnerable. Because if social workers are going to be at the top of the pecking order for public safety, if there's no training and there's no weapons involved, then how are they going to maintain order? So if social workers respond to a call and it goes haywire, well, who's responding? It's the NYPD responding to take action when things are already escalated. So the police officers may be put in positions where they actually have to use more force than they do right now. So this is not diffusing anything. This could actually escalate situations. So I believe the police officer are an extremely vulnerable part right now, being at the bottom of the pecking order, almost as if they have to be put in a situation where they have to take more action. So with that being said, I think we need to look at this and realize the police officers, the rank and file, with this potential shift for safety and the policies, may put them at a more vulnerable position they already are. I mean, we've seen what they say, everything goes up, everything must go down. We've seen the city go up with Rudy Giuliani, former Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and we've seen it come down with former Mayor Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams, and now into Zohran Mamdani. So And the only way, and here's the reality, to maintain order, and this is my opinion, is by force. That doesn't necessarily mean by actually physical hands-on, but a police force, the presence alone, the uniforms, is a presence of force. And what Zohran Mamdani's plan is to disarm that presence, disarm the NYPD, put them at the bottom of the pecking order. So now we lost that presence of force, and without force, we cannot maintain order.
Look, man, I don't know. I'm literally beside myself. And, I just got to say again, I like Zohran Mamdani won the Bronx too. So Democrat stronghold, right? That went socialist. So, I've been saying for a long time, black voters and Jewish voters overwhelmingly vote against their own best interests. All the time. But, I want to now add conservative, Republican, moderate, centrist, and definitely city workers. Because everybody's somber. Oh my God, we didn't fearmonger around Zohran Mamdani. We told you exactly what it was. He's a far left Democrat, just like Andrew Cuomo. So I'm not sitting here telling you Sharia law is coming and they're going to chop your head off and throw you off and all the Jews are going to get. We're not telling you that. We're telling you that it's going in the same direction. So Eric, you're talking public safety. New York City doesn't care about public safety. New York City said yesterday that New York City's safe and they want to continue going in the direction it's going. How did they say that? Because they overwhelmingly voted for a Democrat. Whether they voted for Mamdani or they voted for Cuomo, they're getting the same thing. And that's that's the thing I don't understand. That's the thing. It's public safety is clearly an issue in New York City. So I go to the rental agency. They try to give me this beater car when I'm here. And I'm I'm not driving this car. First of all, it's huge. I was and I'm going to be all over the city. So the girl's oh, I got an M4. I was okay, give me the M4. Gives me a discount on it. And Marlon's yo, seriously, you better be careful with that car. They're going to try to carjack you out here. They're carjacking cars like crazy. And I'm and I know he's right because I know I watch the crime. I see what's happening. And I'm that's something I really never really dealt with the majority of my life. Worried about getting carjacked, looking around, looking for robbery crews. Yeah, when you're in the city, there was stick-up kids and stuff, sometimes here and there. But it wasn't happening on the regular in populated places like it happened now. It would be you got caught out there, you were in a bad spot, you left the club late, whatever. You could definitely get caught out there. Maybe you could even get carjacked, but you're not getting carjacked in the middle of the day or right on the BQE in traffic. These are the things that are happening now across New York City. So New York City told you yesterday that literally what we talk about on the show is literally a pipe dream at this point. It's literally a pipe dream going back to intrusive police work, going back to Rudy Giuliani era. It's New York City said this. We went so far left now. And again, and now you're getting WABC. You're getting all these people. What are they telling you? It's the same messaging. A Republican can't win, vote for Andrew Cuomo or some far left Democrat for governor. So we just moved the paradigm so far to the left. Listen, am I going to say it? I'm leaving New York City today. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll be back 3 weeks from then. I'm still going to constantly be coming here. I still own property here. My family's still here. My family still works here. Most of my dear friends still work here, live here. New York City is honestly, it's the lifeblood of this country. And it's disgusting to watch what happened. It disgusts me. And unfortunately, public safety wasn't on the ballot and public safety will continue to erode. And I'm not sitting here fear-mongering around Zohran Mamdani. I'm fear-mongering around the Democratic Party. I'm telling you that all of you Republicans, all you conservative, all you fake phonies like Joe Borelli, like Mike Lawler, like Sid Rosenberg, like the rest of you, it's your fault. There's no more GOP. There's no more. And who in their right mind runs? Who in their right mind runs? What working class New Yorker are you going to get to run and get in office and actually try to fix things and make things right? You're never getting that candidate. You're going to get a big money, bought and sold, told what to do politician, whether they're on the Republican or they're on the Democratic line, and they're going to sell you nonsense. But I personally think that the Republican Party is done. I personally think we're going to continue to lose city council seats. You're going to continue to lose in the Assembly and the Senate, because here's the messaging. Here's your Overton window now. You either vote for a far left Democrat or you vote for a progressive, and you all bought into that. And now I think that's what it is. I think that's what we have to concern ourselves with now.
Yeah. Very good point, John. Very good point. The Overton window is shifting again. Yeah, and I see some comments in the chat about, I see one in particular about wait till you start hearing the call for prayer at 5 a.m. And I see a lot of people are like worried. There's a fear of Islamicization of New York. And I think you guys who think that are falling for you're falling for a lot of the fear mongering that went on in this election. Okay, you shouldn't be worried about Zohran and Islam. Okay, how many times have we said that Zohran is not? He's a Muslim in name only. Okay, he's secular. Okay, you're not gonna get Islamicization of New York City. You're getting a continuation of corporatism and malfeasance on the part of government and incompetence. You're gonna get a continuing decline of New York City that's becoming less and less relevant on the as a global city. Okay, you're getting continued infrastructure that's falling apart because there's no plan from the people in City Hall. There's been no plan from Eric Adams. There's no plan for Mamdani, and the only person who spoke about it was Curtis Lewa. Okay, you guys need to stop falling for that. What you should be worried about besides those things is the fact that as America becomes more balkanized, and New York City continues the brain drain, right? You're going to continue a brain drain of culture from New York City. And that means New York City becomes even more globally irrelevant and culturally obsolete, okay? Because there was a time back in the old days where a lot of the culture you see that spread out to the rest of America came from New York City. New York City was a place everybody wanted to be. It was a place where people, they saw they could make a future for themselves, they can get a job. And as that drains from New York City, so goes all that relevancy. So if Zohran were to bring neighborhoods of Muslim men who had jobs, okay, who had a good schooling system in the area, okay, and a schooling system that was compatible with America, meaning like when we grew up and you went to school and you had kids who were Muslim, Christian, Jewish, all going to the school system, and nobody cared. You were all American, okay, because you had some semblance of a shared culture. It wouldn't be a big deal if you saw men praying on the street, as long as their community council was okay with it. What would be the big deal? They'd just be Americans but with a different religion. The problem is you're getting a splintered society, okay, where people are coming here from third world countries and they don't have a shared culture anymore. And America itself doesn't have a shared culture anymore. And that is what you should be more worried about New York being obsolete as a relevant and a relevant and functioning city. Okay.
So some of our friends in the chat are asking, inquiring, and they have some concerns about pensions. And absolutely right. I think there's a lot of our friends are retirees from the NYPD, including some of us. So I think that we need to look at the pension system and also the unions when it comes to the pensions, especially for the NYPD, because what will be the relationship with the unions with Zohran Mamdani moving forward? Because I do think that this could have ultimate implications. Obviously, Zohran Mamdani has to go through legislation before some of the promises he made actually comes into effect. But if his plan actually does succeed and he starts to give out free stuff, nothing's free, right? That could ultimately be a byproduct and hurt our pensions. Now, I don't necessarily think, now legally it can. Legally, anyone that's retired right now or vested, legally we can fall into some type of plan where there are reduction in pensions. If the taxpayer ultimately is hit so hard by his plan, that also may change how pensions are funded and how pensions are invested. But I think ultimately we may see that if this plan of giving out free amenities affects the taxpayer and also how pensions are invested, there may be reforms for people going forward. So we've heard that the NYPD is going to up their numbers even under Zohran Mamdani. I don't see how that would be possible because we won't be looking at a potential tier 3. We could be looking at a potential maybe tier 6, where if anyone wants to become an NYPD police officer, that instead of 20 years and out, maybe it could be up to the age of 63 to actually get a pension. So those are my concerns. So anybody asking here about pensions, my concerns are for anyone that's employed right now or anyone that is about to get employed. Now, obviously, I'm concerned about my own pension. I do think that would be the last to be touched. Can it be touched? Yes. These things are not a guarantee, and legally it can be also. So I think we have to look out on how the pensions will be invested. Something Marlon and I talk about often. And I think ultimately, if his plan does succeed, we could be looking at potential hirees, looking at tier 6, maybe tier 8. Maybe they won't even have a pension plan. Maybe the only option will be a 401k or a 457 plan. So I think that we need to look at this closely. And the unions, if they really care, which I believe ultimately they don't, they need to pay attention on how these pensions will be invested and how these pensions will be moving forward, especially for the unborn, those that have not even become NYPD police officers as we speak.
I mean, the other thing about this is, right, like, so we want to talk about pensions now. I mean, look what New York City did, not only with Zohran Mamdani. I mean, they also elected a DSA comptroller. Controller is the one that makes the investments in your pension. We saw what Brad Lander did, DSA candidate. What did he do? He basically, we lost money while the New York State pension and all the other country pension systems gained money. Why? Because he infected his politics into how he was going to invest. He forewent his fiduciary duties, and he decided he was going to divest us from Tesla. He was going to divest us from oil. He was going to do this. He was going to do that. So ultimately, will your pensions be affected by far left progressive Democrats? Will your healthcare be affected by far left progressive Democrats? Yeah, I mean, you're an idiot if you don't think they are. Like, if you think they're getting better, I mean, you're out of your mind. Yeah, I mean, they're literally telling you what they're going to do. They've told you for the last 15 years, and you continue to vote for them. I mean, we saw Bill de Blasio. This is just Eric Adams was Bill de Blasio 2.0. Zohran Mamdani is Bill de Blasio 3.0. I mean, and this is what it is. Look at all the other races. Alvin Bragg, down the line, crushes Maud Moran. Who the hell votes for Alvin Bragg? Where was all the marketing? Where was the Bill Ackmans for Maud Moran to get a face out there to say, you know what, we can't have any more Bragg's reign of terror on Manhattan. We're gonna put in a common sense person into that spot. And no, that we got crushed there. We got crushed with a controller. Public advocate Jumaane Williams, 700,000 votes. Who's voting for this idiot? And then you look at the people that run against them; they're not getting anything. They're not coming close. Not getting anything. Yeah, they get a lot of votes. Yeah, they got a lot of votes. In comparison to the amount of votes that were cast, no, they didn't get a lot of votes at all. And so they didn't even come close to winning the election. So, I mean, should everyone be concerned today? You should have been concerned 12 years ago. You should have been concerned 12 years ago. I've been concerned for a very long time. You can probably see it on my face. So when I woke up this morning, am I like, oh my God, it's the end of the world, the sky's falling? I'm like, no, I don't think the sky's falling. But I think the Republican Party in New York City has fallen. I think it might have statewide implications. It already sounds like the mainstream media is now pushing this narrative. No Republican, doesn't matter who they are, they can't win. Sid Rosenberg bought it. That this is the line going forward. And I think you should expect more of the same. Yeah, there'll probably be a tier 13. Like it's all coming. And it has a lot to do with control and the way they diversify communities aren't truly a diverse aspect. They basically make our communities soulless, They want to remove the Chinatowns, the little Italies, the little Africa, little Haiti. Like they don't want those neighborhoods to exist. Why? Because if you're around people that you have the same faith as, if you're around people and you share the same culture, if you're around people and there's a lot of yous who have the same morals and principles, you probably want the same type of city. And then we can't divide and conquer you. And then you're an issue. So what do? We break your neighborhoods up. We tell you that you're racist if you want to live amongst people that believe the same things on, that enjoy the same lifestyle that you do. And so, they tell us diversity is our strength, but their idea of diversity isn't true diversity. New York was truly diversity. You could go to Chinatown, you could go to Little Italy, you could go anywhere, dude. You could go to parts of in Brooklyn that are just Polish, and that was a truly diverse city. Did you walk in that neighborhood and get assaulted? No. You went in there and you saw what that was like. Could other people move in? Yeah, they could. So I mean, again, this is a huge awakening. It should be. I don't know that it is. But the country obviously has illegal immigration directly affected New York City. Absolutely. Has it affected our elections? I believe so. And I believe this country really needs to take a close look at our immigration policy and start to think, like, how many people are we letting in? What are we doing here? Because if New York City, we always say it, as goes New York City, goes the rest of the country. If as goes New York City, goes to the rest of the country, and I hope we're wrong about that, because we got a big problem, people. We got a big problem. If you're a common sense, hardworking, middle class, working class, I mean, you shouldn't have woke up this morning. You should have been in this fight 12 years ago. You should have been out in the polls like I was, telling people to vote for Curtis Lewa. You should have been out online telling people to do that. Why? Because now they know the Republican Party is a joke, and now this is the messaging. You can't win. Your vote doesn't matter. Your voice doesn't matter. Nothing you say matters. Nothing. If you go to work every day, nothing you say matters anymore. Nothing. They just told you that. Don't worry. We're going to tell you what's best for you. You're going to vote for the candidates we tell you to vote for. And you did it. You did it. You bought it. So yeah, I mean, like people are texting me left and right. I'm getting tons of hate online. I think it's hysterical because I'm like, I'm not wavering. I don't feel bad. I don't like, what did I tell you? I said, did Curtis Lewa have a chance to win? Yeah, he had a chance to win. And you stole it from him. He obviously couldn't have won with those numbers. People didn't come out. I mean, was it a really large turnout? Yeah, I mean, it was a large turnout, but there's still 12 million people about in New York City. Probably 5 million of them can't vote. So, but there's only 3-point-something million registered people to vote, and it was 2 million people vote. So it was disgraceful. It was disgraceful. It was actually a rejection of the working class. It was a rejection of the working class, and the working class and the middle class and the city workers and the Jewish community and the Black communities, the supposed strongholds, they overwhelmingly voted for a socialist. So I mean, what could I tell you? And if you didn't vote for a socialist, you voted for a far left progressive. So like I originally said, and I hold on to it, anyone that'll vote for Andrew Cuomo deserves Zohran Mamdani. And here you go. You got him. You got him.
Yeah, let me know if you guys are having problems hearing me, because they're mowing the lawn outside. So I see some comments about conspiracy theories in the chat, and you guys, like we said before, a lot of people have problems zooming out and looking at the big picture and connecting the dots. And we told you a while ago that there's a lot of electioneering going on in this election. There's a lot of money being pushed and to influence the results of the election. Now, sure enough, what have we seen? When you have Elon Musk coming out and telling you how to vote in this election, okay, and Trump, and you have billionaires and socialites and people who don't even live in New York talking about New York all of a sudden. I mean, do you think that's any sort of a coincidence? I mean, listen, I also saw a comment in there from Joe Ramirez saying that the election will not affect your pension. And I have to tell you, Joel, that unfortunately it will affect your pension because, as we said before, Zohran has no plan. He has no plan on how to stop the hemorrhaging of businesses and residents from New York City. So even if you believe your pension is healthy, what about the contributions from the city? If the city doesn't have the same revenue it once did, they can no longer contribute to the same degree that they once did to your pensions. Okay, so again, we talked about the financial health of the city for a reason, because it's all connected, and Curtis was the only guy who even broached the subject. So yeah, you have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture and look at the threads that are connected, you know.
So let's talk about conspiracies or inside theories. So I got a finest message from a very good source, and I think it's quite interesting. Look at the timing. So the finest message was on November 3rd, a day before the election. So the question is, could Jessica Tisch do some pandering to Zohran Mamdani? And I noticed on the finest message, there is a captain in only 2 years rank, and the last name appears to be maybe Middle Eastern or somewhere from like one of these Asian countries, which I have no problem. I have no problems as long as they're the most suitable person. But the timing looks impeccable to me, and it looks like some pandering. So there's a captain with 2 years in rank with only 16 years on the job that is being transferred as of November 3rd, day before the election, to run the hate crimes task force. So, which the hate crimes task force, you need a lot of experience on the job, especially in rank. So I find that interesting. I find that interesting that someone that may be Middle Eastern or someone from Asian descent with only 2 years in rank is going to be in charge of the hate crimes task force and is transferred one day before the election. And to me, that looks like some complete pandering to Zohran Mamdani. The timing looks impeccable. I say all the time, I don't believe in coincidences. So, John, what do you think? Because I think that's completely intentional.
I mean, I don't know. I can't really like even think about it. Like it's like it is what it is, man. I don't know. Like I don't even know. Like honestly, like I'm just curious to see what happens after January. I'm curious those moves. I'll be paying attention to them more. I really like the day-to-day now. I mean, it's going to be hard to make heads or tails over what's happening. People are leaving, people are retiring. People like it is every head's basically out at this point. I don't think he's going to really retain anybody. Maybe a few people, and so like if those people leave, traditionally what happens when there's a new incoming man, you see retirements, right? So people are going to move. I'm not shocked that inexperienced person is getting put in, or someone, but again, I don't know the guy's background. I don't know his history. So, I can't really even make a judgment on it. I'd have to look at the guy's whole career before I said that. But yeah, it's I don't know, man. It should be a sad day for New York City, but it shouldn't really be something that you're afraid of, because you've been living under it for 13 years, all over the city. People were saying last night, they were like, oh, get ready for socialism. I'm like, you don't think that you live in socialism? You don't even get to choose your own candidate anymore. And if you do, you get blamed for the socialist.
It's already here.
I'm like, do you not remember what happened to us in 2020? And Zohran Mamdani wanted that right to retain those rights and those powers to lock people down, to tell you what you need to put in your body, to basically flout all the rules or just make up rules on a whim, disregard your labor contracts, fire you with no due process. And over 1 million New Yorkers said, yes, give us more, daddy, govern us harder. So, here's the thing, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like, I literally came out in public, like just to fight against this mandate. I'm pretty private normally. I don't really it still weirds me out every time I go out and people are like, oh, I watched the show, I love you guys, blah, 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 want to take a picture. Like, and I appreciate everybody. I appreciate all the love. I do. I'm not knocking it, but it's never anything that I wanted. I just like being real quiet, hanging out with my close, small friends and my family. But I came out and I fought against the mandate, and I fought with a lot of people, you guys included. Marlon, you did too, and and I really think, like, to me, like, that's the bigger thing. It's like we I think I took it to the end. My case is still in court. I think it's nonsense. The judge is, in my opinion, an activist. I'm sure she's going to rule against me. She rolled her eyes at me the minute I walked in. So I'm like, to me, I'm like, I tried to right what I thought was wrong in the world, and not for me, because really, at the end of the day, like, I was always just worried about my kids. I was always just worried about, what does it look like for them? What does it look like for them if I cave? And so now here we are, and I'm saying, you know what? I said I was going to fight it to the end, and I think we're at the end, man. I think, does that mean I'm going to stop advocating for common sense politics? No, I don't. But I think it's the point of realization that, New York City has bowed to socialism, and they've done it a long time ago. And now not only have they bowed to it, they've embraced it with open arms. They've literally embraced it with open arms. And I'm not saying because over 1 million voters voted for Zohran Mamdani. I'm saying that because over 1.8 million voters voted for either Andrew Cuomo or Zohran Mamdani, who wanted to give you the exact same thing. So it has embraced it with open arms. And, I don't know what that looks like for you in the future, but I would be very concerned about any public health measures coming out. I would be very concerned about your due process, because, they have all of the case law and everything to just fire you like that without a department trial, terminate you, and then the courts are all in the tank. So where do you go for accountability? You reach out to Trump's DOJ. They're not even looking at New York. They don't care. To me, and honestly, I think Trump wanted Mamdani. I do. And again, I like Trump. I like some of the stuff he does. But right now, as soon as he did that, I was like, wow, what a scumbag. What a real scumbag. Like, you really just screwed over. You really just screwed over New York City. And I did think, and I did think that, I thought Cuomo was ahead. I did. I thought Cuomo was ahead. I thought Sliwa, it was going to be a horse race. I thought the race was going to be a lot closer than what it was. I couldn't see Mamdani picking up another 500,000 votes. But at the end of the day, I think that's what the Republicans wanted, because they suck too. They haven't done anything for the working class, and they need something to run on in the midterms. And so now you have a straw man, and we'll be hearing about Zohran Mamdani every day on Fox News. He's going to be more famous than AOC ever was. You're going to hear about, that's what I said. I said, you never hear about Republican candidates on Fox News or Newsmax. Who do you hear about? You hear about AOC, you hear about Rashida Tlaib, you hear about Ilhan Omar, but they don't tell you about all the things you can do to fix that and prevent candidates like that. They don't tell you about all the policy failures that happen to allow candidates like that. They don't tell you about all the how to actually go out and learn about partaking in politics and getting involved. And so, the old saying is, if you don't get involved in politics, people say, oh, I don't do politics. And the old saying is like, oh, you don't do politics? Politics is going to do you. So that's where we are in New York City. Politics is doing you. It did us. We'll fight against it. We'll keep calling it out as we see it. To me, everybody's like, they're all laughing. Oh, this, that, the other thing. I'm like, oh, you think that this derailed us? I want to report on Zohran Mamdani's NYPD. Are you kidding? It just bolstered us even nationally now. You know what I mean? No, it's for us as a podcast, as a crew, as a network. It benefits us, but it's not nothing we wanted to benefit. It's not the type of benefit we wanted.
Well, I don't want to cut you off, but I got to push back on this real quick. Hard X Core. I don't know if you're living under a rock, brother, but he puts pensions backed 100% by the state. Our pension is not affected by New York City finances as per pension seminar. If state goes bankrupt, it may be affected. Brother, you must be living under a rock. You need to look at what happened in Chicago, because in Chicago, the pensions were underfunded, and they had some serious implications. And the same thing could happen in New York City. Where do you think the state gets their funding? From upstate New York or New York City? I think you're living under a rock, brother. And if you're paying attention to those pension seminars, you're going to be misled. Your pensions are in jeopardy, but I said it would be the last of the pecking order. Right now, I would worry about the unborn and those that are currently working right now. But in Chicago, they went broke. Lisa Roberts says it right here. Yeah, Chicago went broke. So the city was completely underfunded and the pensions had some serious implications. You need to look at that, brother.
Just on that real quick before you go, Marlon. So my father was a Teamster, disabled veteran, disabled Vietnam veteran, combat veteran. But he was a Teamster. He was a truck driver. And Teamsters were the strongest union in the country. They had federal back pensions, right? So my father only did about 10 years as a Teamster. So he had a small pension there. Later on in life, he did get like disability from the government. They did disable him, and then he was retired, disabled as a construction worker as well. So he had a small pension, but a lot of his friends that did 30, 40 years as Teamsters, they had these large Teamster pensions, federally backed. Anyway, Teamsters union goes bankrupt, and the federal back kicks in, and then so they're like, look, we got to cut your pension in half. So my father didn't give a shit because it wasn't his only source of income, and he always used to tell me like, don't rely on that pension, like it might not always be there. And it was because he's seen it, And so what they did is they cut the pension in half. So now let's say you were getting $10,000 a month, and you're retired 5 years. Boom, like, oh, we had to cut it in half. You're only getting $5,000 a month. Oh well, it's federally back. We're good. So I get the $5,000 a month. Then about 4 years later, kept going bankrupt. So they were like, yeah, look, we got to cut your pension in half again. So went from 10,000 to 2,500. And, I'm not saying those were the numbers then because obviously it's a long time ago, but I'm just putting it in today's standards, like, and so that's what happened, So don't think that can't happen. You're out of your minds. Like, you're crazy. And you literally see the disdain that these elites and the socialists and everybody have for us. You see it. You see it in your own job. Like, go up to legal. Go look at all those lawyers. They think that they're better than you because they got a law degree. Like, how do these cops make so much money? It's like, well, usually when the bullets start flying, you run and hide behind me, and I run towards it. So like that's why I make a lot of money. And that's why I'm probably only going to live about 3 years after retirement. And that's probably why, I'm not going to live a normal life, and I can't go to sporting events, and I can't do things that normal people do because of all the trauma that I experienced in my life. But yeah, while you were working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, you deserve to make more money than me because you got a law degree and you were so good at law that you couldn't actually become a lawyer. You just took a job for $60,000 a year with the NYPD because you actually suck at being a lawyer, and you're an incompetent loser who daddy sent them away to college, and he was smoking pot or blowing 3 dudes in the bathroom. And then you went to law school and you did the same thing there, and you're a mess, and no big law firm would hire you. So you went and took an easy job where you didn't have to work, but yet you think you should make as much money as a cop. So, sorry, but yeah, that's my rant and the rant. I'm gonna jump out of here, Marlon. Next round, I'm gonna jump out of here. I gotta get going.
Yeah.
John said earlier, I'm gonna do an hour. I'm like, yeah, right, brother. That ain't happening.
Yeah. I'm gonna try not to go in the weeds here because I would literally be in here hours hardcore. There's something you should look up, and it's called the solvency ratio. You should look it up. See what New York City's part is in terms of the solvency ratio. But even if you think, again, that your pension is in a healthy situation right now, which I guarantee you it's not, because I'm looking at the private equity, I'm looking at the commercial real estate market and how much of those are tied into your pensions. So you should look into that as well. Both markets are unhealthy right now. But even if you think the pension is healthy, right, you should look into the policy documents of Zohran and what, as we said before, what they want to do with the city of Yes, and how the city and the developers, the city wants to subsidize, which the city already does subsidize. There's a lot of building in the city, but what they want to do with the pensions. And I mentioned a talk where Bill Aikman was in Saudi Arabia about a week ago, and both him and Larry Fink of BlackRock noted that government needs to unlock capital. Okay, government unlocking capital, which is a euphemism for retirement accounts, and which Trump already passed a measure that allows retirement accounts to be invested in private equity and crypto. Okay, so even if you think your pension is healthy, you need to look into those situations, because neither one of those situations are healthy, because a lot of firms are looking to unload junk from the private equity market onto the pension funds and retirement accounts. They're looking for a bailout. And the reason why they want to use your retirement accounts is because government can outright bail them out. But government could, they could bail out your pension. That's something that if they came to the public and said, listen, we have all these old people, baby boomers, we need to bail them out, people are more willing to go along with that. Now, which you're going to think, oh, great. So the pension is safe, right? Here's the problem, okay? Even if government bails out your pension, okay, when your pension is adjusted for inflation, yeah, you have a pension, but how much purchasing power will you still have left in that pension? So you need to wake up. You need to really wake up and look into these things and stop thinking like that there's some sort of magical money tree somewhere that just continues funding pensions and you know, in perpetuity. If your economy is declining, if asset values are declining, and if your city is already hemorrhaging tax revenue and a tax base.
So Crazy 10-7 said that the pension system in New York is much different than Detroit and Chicago. Now, there are some different constraints. I'll agree that the pension system in New York City, especially for the police pension fund, is much stronger. However, don't you think a progressive mayor tinkering with the investments of a pension could take us down a slippery slope? Chicago's pension was getting 30 cents on the dollar because of bad investments. Detroit went completely bankrupt. Don't you think with a progressive mayor, we've already went downhill with former Mayor Bill de Blasio into Eric Adams. Don't think that your investments are doing so great, because they're not. And what Marlon said is absolutely right. Spot on. So if we get a progressive mayor, which we're going to get right now, a Democratic socialist, and his name is Zohran Mamdani, and if he's tinkering with your pension investments to fund free baby baskets and buses and cheaper grocery stores, city-owned grocery stores, well, that could hurt the investments of your pension. And could a progressive mayor, a Democratic socialist, take us into bankruptcy? Absolutely. And could it affect the state and be bankrupt on a state level? Absolutely. And guess what happens to your pension? Say goodbye. So do I want that to happen? No, but I'm telling you the reality that we have to prepare for the worst. So we have to pay attention. And that's why I'm saying, what's going on with the unions for the NYPD? What's going on with the unions for these other pensions? Right? I think Zohran Mamdani is supposed to meet with 34B union. So what is going on with these pension systems? Every union needs to be aware and be terrified at this point right now. I know they don't care about the unborn, because we've seen the history of the unions and how they treat the unborn. But for those that are working right now and those that have pensions right now, if the city goes bankrupt, we're a major problem. A progressive mayor tinkering around with the investments of a pension to fund these free amenities could affect you. So don't tell me it's different than Detroit and Chicago. Maybe the actual breakdown and how the investments are allocated. Yes, the NYPD pension is much stronger in those aspects than especially Detroit, even more so than Chicago. But we have to pay attention, because if the city affects a state bankruptcy because of a progressive Democratic socialist, yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah, and but like, here's the thing. I think really we have to stop using the word socialist, and we just have to call out what it is. It's the Democrats. Like, like the people are like, oh, do you feel bad? No. This is the Democratic Party. We said it weeks ago. Zohran Mamdani is the face of your party. 1.8 million Democratic voters. Any candidate you get in there on the Democratic line, the only way for them to get elected is to appeal to those voters. So whether you call yourself a Democratic socialist or you call yourself a Democrat, you're a socialist, because you're not getting elected, right? You're not getting elected. So it literally is like, I'm the fear mongering, like people are going to say this is fear mongering around Zohran. We were saying the same thing about Eric Adams. We were saying the same thing about Bill de Blasio. We were saying the same thing about all those controllers, Scott Stringer. We were saying the same thing about Brad Landa. We're going to be saying the same thing about Mark Levine. So I think that's just the reality of this. I'm going to head out of here. I'm going to go back to Florida for a few weeks. I'm going to go be with my wife and kids. I'm exhausted from all this. And I'm going to focus on my family for a little bit and myself and my own health. But yeah, I think, yeah, well, listen, we're still going to be here. We're still going to keep narrowing it down. Guys, have a great show. Appreciate you. I'll talk to you later on today. And everybody, thank you in New York City. Thank you for all the love. Thank the real fighters out there. Proud to have stood with you. I'm proud of all of you. I'm proud of Scott Lebedo. Proud of Curtis Sliwa. I'm proud of so many people. Phyllis Incerillo, Matt Connor, all the Bravest for Choice people, all the people out there fighting, Cafecito Break, Michael Caine, all you guys. I think, it gives me hope for a future. But watching the masses cave was really pathetic, man. It was really pathetic. I'm going to be talking about that for a long time. So everybody's telling me to shut up. I'm going to shut it up.
John, before you run out, I just want to say, and you have to address to Juju, because Juju says, hold that L, John. And I think what Juju doesn't understand is that, hey, John didn't lose. We all, if John loses, we all lost. Because if Zohran Mamdani, this progressive mayor, takes us down this path and reallocates investments and funding, we all lose. Even you, Juju, we all do. And that's the point.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Like I said, I was wrong about certain things. I was right about other things. I was wrong that I didn't think he could pick up 500,000 more votes. I didn't think he would get enough votes to win. But I guess I was right that Andrew Cuomo couldn't win, right? So there were things I was wrong about. I totally admit that, because there were things I didn't see. I really didn't believe that over 1 million New Yorkers would vote for Zohran Mamdani. And shame on me for not realizing that movement is real in New York City. Because at the same time, I was sitting there saying, the Democratic Party is a socialist now, and Zohran Mamdani is the face of that. I didn't really see it. Now I know why Kathy Hochul was on stage with him. Now I know why Hakeem Jeffries endorsed him. Now I know why Letitia James endorsed him, because they don't have a choice, because they have to appeal to those voters. But I don't think they're so much different than the Zohran Mamdani. He's just a lot younger, and he hasn't screwed the voters over yet. That's the only difference. He's a young face. He gives good speeches. He's a young Barack Obama with no baggage. And so his speech, when you listen to it, I see why people gravitate to him, especially young people, but he has no substance. He's full of shit. And this is the Democratic Party in New York City, and the Republican Party now votes Democrat, like we've seen. So, so I take an L. I mean, it's not an L I want to take. It's not an L I want to take, because ultimately I think it's an L for New York City, and we all lose. I think the people that voted for him lose. I don't think they won. I think the people that continue to vote Democrat lose. I think the Black community continue to lose. I think the Jewish community continues to lose. I think the word city workers continue to lose, and we voted for it. So,
yo, brother, listen, be safe on your plane ride. Lily says, when you take your plane ride, I think it's with Lily or someone else, to take Juju with you. Oh, Hoodman said it. Take Juju with you.
Oh, and Juju, I was waiting for you, bro. Everybody else came see me. You didn't come see me. Come on. Yeah. All right. Peace out, people.
Yeah.
Yo, right, brother, be good, man.
Right. Safe travels, bro.
Later. Thanks, brother.
All right. Yeah. I don't get you, Juju. You keep saying that John took an L. Is John really losing? I mean, John lives in a better place now. Okay, you still live in New York City. Okay, so the changes that are happening now, which by the way you want, because if you wanted Cuomo there, then you're getting Cuomo policies, just in a different. It may look differently on the surface, but it's the same policies as Cuomo. So you got what you voted for. But is John really losing when he's in a better location in a state that's thriving right now and growing, at where businesses are flocking to? Is John really losing? So I agree with you, Yvette. That 7% is it's just such a crazy low number to me that I'm sorry, but call me whatever you want, but it's just, I just have a hard time believing that number. But something else I want to say is that I think Zohran is likely to be another one-term mayor himself. And I'm saying that because Zohran is already coming in with a lot of opposition. Because remember, 40% voted for Cuomo. So even though they're getting the same policies in a different face, you're not going to like the policies that you're getting. Okay. And also Zohran is coming into the door with fiscal problems, a deficit. And he's coming through the door with infrastructure problems that we talked about. Again, hemorrhaging businesses, hemorrhaging tax revenue. And this certainly gives places like Miami. I see somebody mention Miami in that, Lisa. It certainly, if I was the mayor of Miami, I have a great marketing tool right now to come to New York City and tell all the business, all the corporations, hey, now's a great time to come to a nice and sunny South Florida. So again, I think Zohran is likely to be a one-term mayor because all the stuff he promised ain't happening. Okay, even if he had the power to make certain things happen, like the MTA, it ain't happening because the money isn't there. Okay, so his base is going to be very unhappy soon with him. It's going to be like the situation in Chicago with the other idiot there. Okay, whose numbers are like dirt level at this point. Okay,
so let's talk about the blue city effect, right? When it comes to public safety. So what does it mean? What are the implications, not just for New York City, but for other blue cities throughout this entire country when it comes to redefining the contract of public safety? The contract of public safety throughout this entire country, whether you're in a blue city or a red city, has always been that the local law enforcement agency is at the top of the pecking order for public safety. Now, when it comes to a progressive mayor, democratic socialist like Zohran Mamdani, we already know his plan. He's been pretty transparent about it. But what we don't know is behind closed doors what he has not mentioned, right? That's the difference between Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani has told you pretty much the majority of his plan or lack thereof. With Andrew Cuomo didn't tell you much because it's the same thing as Zohran Mamdani. But now we really have to look at this social contract and this contract of public safety. How will it truly affect New York City residents? And do we think he could actually carry it out? Because if this is carried out now, if the NYPD is put at the bottom of the pecking order and social workers are now at the top and trusting 911 dispatchers to determine if a police officer should be dispatched or not, we're in for some scary times. I think we're in for an earthquake of crime. I think this is really a crazy time, honestly, because I know I've had numerous conversations. Even someone said it here earlier, Tim Silva, that had to leave. Tim said earlier, just respond, repeat. But I believe this could make it ultimately more heavy-handed for the NYPD. The NYPD, I don't even think has the option to be an empty suit. Because if these social workers are responding to calls, and if they just get completely obliterated and annihilated and assaulted, well, the NYPD is going to have to respond with extreme force. That's not necessarily an opportunity to de-escalate. That's, unfortunately, that is a moment where you have to escalate the situation by using immediate force. And what the public doesn't understand, and anyone that's in opposition to the police force, is that you have to have force to maintain order. Let's be honest. We have a Bill of Rights. Our amendments for the Constitution, while they may be God-given rights, they're also forced by men. Men enforce these amendments that we have. Let's talk about the First Amendment. Your right to free speech and your right to freedom of expression. The only reason why you have those rights is because there are God-fearing men that are willing to put boots on and to fight overseas and to maintain order within this country so that you have those rights. And if we don't fight for them, those rights will be taken away immediately. And it goes for the same thing on the streets of New York City. If we're not fighting for public safety by having that presence, and that presence is the NYPD, trained men and women in uniform, that presence right there is force that deters crime. But if we're removing that and putting the NYPD at the bottom of the pecking order, these weak, meek, timid, and docile social workers is going to put us at a case of horror. And the NYPD will have to use even more force. And now we'll have cops terminated left and right because the CCRB is going to have the ultimate say with discipline. We are in for a tornado. We are in for a disaster. So you have to worry about your pensions. We have to worry about the streets of New York City, the NYPD, other agencies. I mean, this is just a conglomerate right now of issues. This could be doomsday. As I said before, the city went up with Giuliani. It went up with Bloomberg. And then former Mayor Bill de Blasio slowly, they're progressives, and they progressively took this down. Jerry, Sepify to you, brother. November 10th, which is coming Monday, is the Marine Corps birthday, and November 11th is Veterans Day. So shout out and thank you, everyone. You're damn right. If anyone disagrees with me, tell me right now in the chat. It's God-fearing men that allow us to have the rights that we have. It's men that have fought and died, whether it's on the streets of New York City, on the streets anywhere in this country, in a small town or city, or men and women that have fought overseas so that we have the rights that we have. And yes, the rights that we have are by force, whether it's presence or actually by taking action.
Yeah. Soft times create soft men. Yeah. But I don't see how he's gonna be able to accomplish this whole Department of Community Safety thing. That's gonna work like a week until somebody gets hurt, and then you're gonna see cops going on every job again, which means we're gonna need more cops. And where you're gonna find those cops, or which units you're gonna take away those cops from. I already said on Sal's show like a week ago that I think. One of the problems I see if he retains Tish is that there's going to be friction between keeping the Q teams and staffing his Department of Community Safety with cops necessary to follow civilian psychologists or whoever to EDP jobs, because we don't have enough manpower for both. So I don't see how that's going to happen. And there's an account online that put up an estimate of the costs of Mamdani's signature proposals. Now, I didn't get a chance to dig into it, but we did talk before that essentially what Mamdani wants to do is add more money to a lot of the programs that already exist now under Eric Adams. So this account, I retweeted it on my X, but it said that it's estimated to cost $7 billion for Mamdani's proposals. Now, keep in mind, there's already a $6 billion deficit, okay, which is going to be compounding every year. So on top of that, we now have $7 billion extra costs for his community safety proposal. Now he can take some money out of it. If that proposal were to work as designed, then you'd need less cops. And so maybe you'd be able to take a little bit off the top of the NYPD budget, which was $6 billion for 2026. It's $6 billion allocated. But the problem is you would still need at least $3 to $4 million extra, $3 or $4 billion extra on top of that $6 billion deficit that we're already facing. So again, he can promise pie in the sky proposals, but you still need to find money for it. And as Eric says here, you're going to need those civilian workers are not equipped or trained to go up against EDPs that are going to be confronting them with knives immediately as they get to the door, as we saw with Win Rosario. So I don't see how this is going to work out for Mamdani.
Tabitha Foster, Tabitha, how you doing? Great friend to the podcast. So Tabitha says, I disagree with you, unfortunately, Eric. I only have rights because my ancestors fought and died for me to get them, because the government used force to keep the rights from me. So Tabitha, I have a question for you. How much have you traveled in your life? And if you did so, have you traveled overseas? Have you spent any time overseas in any country, even the best countries outside the States? And I think if you have, I think that you'll answer that question much differently. So here's the reason why I say that. What is the world population? The world population right now is close to 9 billion. I think it's about maybe 8.7 billion. I'm not sure exactly. So what's the population of the U.S.? About 342 to 345 million. So what is the percentage of the population of the United States that makes up for the population of the entire world? I think it's about 4 to 5%. So the U.S., this amazing nation that some of us never leave and think it's the center of the world and that no other place exists, only makes up 4% of the entire population. How do you think we maintained the Bill of Rights, maintain the freedom that we have? Because men have fought and died, and they continue to do that. There are men and women right now who are on the streets of other places in countries, hostile areas that you never hear about, not necessarily war, that lose their lives or get injured because they are fighting for this country. Again, we only make up 4% of the population. Now, when we talk about domestically, that's very important that we protect within. We also have law enforcement throughout this entire country. And as far as I'm concerned, law enforcement in this country should be considered veterans also, because the work that they're doing is serving their country from within, especially with the terrorists that we have within and the potential attacks that could come from overseas. And you may feel oppressed in some ways, and many people are, that the government has used rights against you. And yes, that may have happened. But overall, we do have the best system in the entire world. And I can say that because I traveled in some of the finest places in the entire world. First world countries, just like the U.S. And still, you'll never have the freedoms that you have in this country. There's no doubt about it. No government is perfect. We have a lot of flaws. Absolutely. But this is by far the best shit that you're going to see.
Yeah. I agree. And Hardcore says, I work through disaster mayors one after the other. It ain't that serious. Police accordingly. Well, here's the thing, right? There are other factors that you lived through in prior years, which even though things were bad, the future was it was easier for us to transition out of those bad periods. What I believe is it's getting a little harder to do it, and that has in order for you to understand that, you have to look at the role of the what's happening in the world with the finances and how the world is becoming splintered and regional. And whereas in the past, the money automatically, in a lot of ways, are automatically defaulted to New York City. The future that's coming now is kind of multi-regional, where you don't need to be in New York City to experience the economic benefits that you would in the past, right? So it was easier for us to get out of like the crack era of the late 80s, early 90s, and get through the Giuliani years and then into the Bloomberg years, right? Where in the Bloomberg years we saw how New York prospered. I think it'll become very much harder in the future, because you don't need to be in New York to do that, because of the internet has grown so much and it's become such a big part of people's lives that there are alternatives, But I'm also going to say that there's a lot of arrogance when it comes to older New Yorkers, because they've lived through the good periods for so long, and they see that even when we had bad periods, New York was able to get out of those bad periods in relatively quick times. Think of it. We went from the 70s to the Bloomberg era in what, the span of being bankrupt in the 70s to the Bloomberg era in maybe 25, 30 years. Not even, actually, maybe 20 years per se. But look at places like Detroit. Detroit is now starting to get better, but it's nowhere near the Detroit of the 50s and the early 60s. Okay. And it's taken, even for Detroit to start growing again and to start attracting businesses and production again, it's taken like 60, 70 years. So that arrogance that New Yorkers have is something that I think hurts people, because you're not paying attention to what's happening. You don't think that New York City can no longer become that cultural icon that you think that New York City, again, I give the example many times. New York City is like that high school quarterback who continues going back to the high school even though his best years are behind him, and doesn't realize that the world has kept moving, and that he needs to keep moving with the world too, and keep improving and keep stay competitive with other cities. And I think that a lot of that, it plays a role in our elections, because people are willing to vote for Cuomo again, and having to realize how much he's hurt the city already. So it's that arrogance.
I think this is the question of the day. Mikey G, shout out to you, brother. Great friend to the podcast. Mikey G says, do you think the government shutdown had anything to do with the elections? I think it's a great question. And I think ultimately, yes. So a lot of people blame the government shutdown on Donald Trump. So Donald Trump endorsing Andrew Cuomo gives more opposition where people already feel oppressed. Because if the federal government is shut down, then any local partnerships that the city has, maybe with federal grants or even federal funding for the NYPD, for instance, would be shut down. So, and people already have a bias and disdain towards Donald Trump as it is, especially in New York City. So, with Donald Trump endorsing Andrew Cuomo, especially at the 11th hour, I think hurts the election also, which I think is why we saw such an offset with the numbers, which shows why the polls don't even matter. Because I think the 11th hour, Donald Trump, especially with these shutdowns, endorsing Andrew Cuomo, shifted people towards Mamdani anymore. So people saying that John took an L, I don't think John was completely off. I think that 11 o'clock hour endorsement really shifted the numbers and brought people over to Mamdani even more because they're like, you know what? People love oppression. You know what? It was like a screw you moment. You know what? Screw you, Donald Trump. We're going to vote for Mamdani, especially right now with the government shutdown, because people are affected by it, especially, as I said before, local grants. Maybe people even getting mortgages right now that may have federal grant funding. They'll be affected by it also. So people feel hurt by it, especially right now where Zohran Mamdani's entire platform has been about affordable housing. So outstanding question, brother. And also just want to say shout out to Tabitha again. Tabitha, I really appreciate your response. You know, it's all in civil course debate, and thanks for being a great friend to the podcast. Appreciate
it. Yeah. We appreciate the divergent views, even though, again, like we clearly don't agree on a lot of things. We do agree on some things, though, you know. But yeah, there's 2 Jujus in the comments today. You notice that? 2 Jujus.
Oh, I'm sure there's way more than 2. We know there's a whole team of them.
Yeah. Yeah, but guys, we're now 40 minutes in. If you guys, again, we appreciate you guys being here, and if you guys haven't already, please hit those like buttons and kind of share us out so we can get past this algorithm. And so again, we're talking about the results from yesterday, and like we said, a lot of us we're disappointed in the results, and disappointed that a lot of people who claim to be conservatives went out there and you voted for Cuomo, especially you guys in Staten Island. And yet some of you guys are still here complaining about, how, our support for Sliwa helped Mamdani win, even though Mamdani has the same policies you voted for with Cuomo. So pick one, guys, pick. You can't have it both ways. Okay, you either wanted those policies or you didn't. And if you didn't want those policies, you should have voted for Curtis Lewa like we did. And like we said, you guys, this is the part of the problem is you're still low information, even though you may think you aren't. You are, because had you actually read the policy documents on both Cuomo and Mamdani, you'd realize that both are no good, and Curtis is the man you should have been voting for.
So I think this is a good time. Let's talk about if Jessica Tisch, the police commissioner right now for the NYPD, if she stays on as the commissioner under Zohran Mamdani, what will things look like, right? So we know, for one, it may be a great pick for him to continue on with Jessica Tisch because she was never a former cop. She's a data-driven, technological person with a deep pocket. And Zohran Mamdani's political plan is to put the NYPD on the bottom of the pecking order, maybe using data to determine how to do policing, right? Because he wants to rely on 911 dispatchers. He wants to rely on social workers. So I think that it may be the most suitable option for him actually to stick with Jessica Tisch, because not being a former cop and actually being data-driven, that may actually coincide with his plan, rather than having a simp like Rodney Harrison or who's that other clown? Abasi?
Yeah.
Abasi, or whichever other simps. I'm sure there's a bunch of former NYPD chiefs right now who are, as I said earlier, on ChatGPT putting together a resume and a sipping speech for Zohran Mamdani, because they're going to go along with his plan. They know exactly that it goes against every grain that we've been taught in the understanding fundamentals and principles and the bedrock and foundation of policing. Zohran Mamdani is the Antichrist when it comes to policing. So I think it is in his best interest to keep Tisch on. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing is, here's my thing. I think the guy that you're going to get that we think is going to be the front runner to replace Tish, how different is he actually from Tish? Because what you look at what his role in Patterson, and the guy we're talking about is Abbasi, right? Isa Abbasi, and his role in Patterson is not too dissimilar from what Tish has done. Meaning he's looking at crime and policing as something that you can manage with centralized planning and AI and all this technology. And in addition to that, the guy who put him there, the state attorney general of New Jersey, is a very left-wing guy. So when I look at that and I look at what Tish has done in terms of bringing technology and AI and all these technocratic tools to NYPD, I ask myself, how really different is he from her? And are we really going to get anything different, or are we getting a continuation of what she's already done? Because once again, Tish is connected to the Police Foundation, and we've mentioned how the Police Foundation is connected to Wall Street and big tech and all that. And so is Abbasi. He's connected to the same people and the same Police Foundation donors. So I don't think we'll get much different, if we do get him.
Well, I think also under Zohran Mamdani, and if Jessica Tish stays in place in the position of police commissioner, I think that we'll see a different metric of measure for police officers that stay on the NYPD. Right, the metric of measure mostly for NYPD police officers is arrest, summonses, police engagement, how they investigate crime. And I think because the NYPD is going to be put at the bottom of the pecking order, that we may see a shift. And that's why I say data-driven is important for Jessica Tish. And what I think we may see is more of addressing on how police officers do with community engagements, maybe how well do they do with diversion programs, how well do they do with diffusing situations, how well do they do with getting people different types of social services. And I think the metric of measure for police officers will be totally different, because of the police department, rank and file, you need to definitely pay attention to this. If you're put at the bottom of the pecking order of policing, then you have a complete different mission. The social workers will be at the top of the pecking order, and no longer will be a mission will be to address crime. And Zohran Mamdani has given this illusion that the only thing that the NYPD addresses is this homeless problem, and that it's only homeless that are emotionally disturbed. Anytime the police go to a 911 call, everyone's emotionally disturbed. People don't call 911 because they had a good day. They call 911 because it's the worst day of their lives. People don't walk into a precinct to say hello to cops. People walk into a precinct because they're having a bad day. So for the most part, I think the mission changes on how we evaluate a police officer, not by how they conduct crime investigations, how they actually diffuse situations, more like a social worker status. He claims that he wants the NYPD doing their job and taking responsibilities away from them. But I think ultimately what Zohran Mamdani is going to do, and this is what we need to analyze, is change the limitations, the capabilities, the achievements, and the boundaries of a police officer. So I think that we need to pay attention to, especially with a progressive democratic socialist just like Zohran Mamdani. And we've already seen the numbers go off on a cliff. Right now, crime is out of control. Not every shooting is documented. If shots are fired and no one is shot, it's not getting documented properly. That's a misrepresentation of crime. We're not getting an actual picture of what's going on. And if Zohran Mamdani puts the NYPD at the bottom of the pecking order, it's going to get far worse.
Mm-hmm. I see a comment from Inspector Ron Layson of the Executive Perspective. He says that Mamdani said on ABC News this morning he's looking to keep Tish. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I see a potential conflict coming over manpower, and I don't know where they're going to find the bodies to do two things at once. To protect those, or are we going to start giving these social workers and civilians defensive weapons? So I'm curious how that's going to work out.
So that's why I'm making that prediction that he'll keep Jessica Tish on, because to me, ultimately, it's the only thing that makes sense. If he gets himself a sipping Rodney Harrison or Abizi or Bazi or whatever his name is, or some other simp that's going to be under Zohran Mamdani. Now, I do believe that they will fall in line with the policies that Zohran Mamdani puts into place. However, they're still institutionalized, and they're used to a certain culture with the NYPD and how things run. So it would take some time to make those adjustments. It wouldn't happen right away. But I think with Jessica Tisch, those adjustments could be made right away because she was not a former cop. So she doesn't have that culture instilled in her. So I believe where she's more data-driven, that shift could be made much easier. So in my opinion, and he's reflected by saying it right now, according to Big Ron, thank you for putting that out. I haven't seen that. I'm just going by what makes sense to me, what's logical. I don't see him taking out Jessica Tisch. I see her staying in place as the police commissioner. That's my prediction. You heard it today.
Yeah. I also see a great comment by KB. KB states, KB, who's a regular viewer, is a regular chat participant and viewer of ours. So we appreciate you, KB. But KB says she may stay on as PC, but the Department of Public Safety will override her. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. And it's going to be interesting if the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, what his role is going to be in terms of the Department of Public Safety. Is he going to be the guy, he or she going to be the person in charge of that Department of Community Safety? Because, it seems to me like in a lot of ways that department would be a rival to the police department. And we've already seen a conflict between the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety in the past and the PCs, with I'm talking specifically about Phil Banks and the other PCs that were there, like Donlan rather. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. And even though she stays on initially, I mean, she could be gone in a couple months when the administration really gets to work. So it could just be a transitional spot, to be honest with you.
I agree with you. I think it can be transitional and transactional. Why do I say transactional? Maybe there's a deal. I'll stay on for a couple of months to help you change the culture, and then maybe I'll find myself some political position somewhere. So transitional and transactional.
Yeah.
Jack Stern leaves a great comment here. However, Jack, I don't agree completely. I understand what you're saying, but Jack finds some filter family. Great comment. Jack's a very intelligent guy. Says the Department of Community Safety will end up being a collaboration between cops and social workers. Nobody has $1 billion for an entire new department. So I don't believe it's going to be a collaboration. I think it's going to change the entire mission. And I think that the NYPD is going to be there to supplement the social workers. So not necessarily a collaboration unless we have Jessica Tisch or some other person that's willing just to change the complete culture of the NYPD. Then it would be a collaboration. So you do make a great point. Here's the part I really don't agree. Nobody has $1 billion for an entire new department. Right, but that's what we're saying. We're not saying to have a new department and keep the NYPD functioning as is. I believe that they'll remove resources and training from the NYPD, take the funds from there, and put it into this social worker apparatus where it's going to look like its own police department. I think myself and Marlon and John were pretty clear in one of our former episodes where we even said it's going to be the social worker police department. And so I think that funds will be allocated, and there's plenty of funding there. That's why I do believe the leverage that Zohran Mamdani has, because if Zohran Mamdani ends up having a complete failure with his plan, he can easily blame it on Donald Trump and say, hey, he asked for federal funding to help his plan move forward, and he's received nothing but resistance and reluctance from the federal government. So I believe Zohran Mamdani is really in a good place where the youngsters will get behind him because they don't understand policing, and most of them have a bias and disdain for policing as it is. So, I agree with your assessment partly, Jack. I understand what you're saying, but I get it. There's no place to get another $1 billion, especially if he's going to have all these amenities, and I think pensions will be on the fritz. These are scary times, but Jack, you make a great point, brother. You sure do.
Yeah. The other question is, Trump has said that he's going to send the federal, the National Guard to New York City. He's threatened to do it, and he's threatened to do it specifically under Mamdani. So I'm curious how that dynamic is going to work out. Because if Zohran thinks he's going to come in and kind of go back to like regress to not having cops being hands-on and like being letting certain low-level offenses go, then how long before Trump says I'm setting in the National Guard? I mean, if Trump, the other thing is, if Trump he's already threatening to remove federal funding from New York City, how long before the police department doesn't have the money to allocate for overtime, overtime costs like in the subway, which will necessitate Trump sending in the National Guard quicker. So,
Great question. Chick and wing. Chicken wing. That's pretty funny. Will Mamdani rehire all of the people terminated under the COVID mandate? So we know the answer is no. And we already know. How do we know? Because Mamdani, if you have an opportunity to see Chicken Wing, Mamdani actually was a guest on New York's Finest Unfiltered Podcast. Myself and John interviewed him, and in a short 20 minutes, he had to run. But we did have an opportunity to ask him if he would restore Marlon Bethel and the other agency workers from New York City, not just cops, that were terminated for not in compliance with the COVID vaccine mandate. And he said no. He said no. So take an opportunity. He said no because he felt that they weren't compliant at that point, that they wouldn't be compliant moving forward should there be a health risk at rise. So the answer is no.
Yeah, guys. He clearly stated that he wants to be able to use the emergency mandate powers, which what emergency mandate powers? Okay, the courts already struck that down. Even if indirectly with Garvey, but he clearly stated on the episode. And by the way, we put up a video yesterday which has footage from that same episode where Mamdani tells you explicitly that he doesn't want to bring me back and he wants to use those powers again. Which here's the other thing nobody's talking about. You guys aren't talking about how Mamdani would love to use that again, and Cuomo too. Okay, so we still haven't come to terms with all the policy failures of the scamdemic, which is another point why we told you shouldn't be voting for Cuomo. But I still see people in this chat I still see you, Marty, wants to blame Ron. You're talking about Ron and supporting Sliwa. And again, Marty, you got what you wanted. You got the policies that you wanted because Mamdani has the same policies as Cuomo. So what are we complaining about? If you were happy to vote for Cuomo again, you should be celebrating now because you're getting Cuomo policies.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we nailed it here. Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, Eric Adams. It's all the same. It's this rat race has been, pick this person, you get the same thing. They're all the same person, same policies. To me, they're the same horse, just different color. It's how you look at it. It's different perspective. There's been this fear mongering that, oh my God, if Zohran Mamdani is the mayor, we need to run. Well, you should have ran before when Eric Adams was your mayor for 4 years. Just an ultimate failure, complete corruption we've seen by Eric Adams. It's a complete disaster. Disaster by former Mayor Bill de Blasio. But it is progressive. Things have not gotten better. They're getting worse. So it's easy to say, yeah, if Zohran Mamdani, when he gets in office, if things do get worse, I don't want to see just blame on Zohran Mamdani. To get to this point, we need a former Mayor Bill de Blasio. You need a former Mayor Eric Adams to get so bad so that Zohran Mamdani could take New York City just into complete chaos.
Oh, did you just get a message from John, Eric? He's saying that
I didn't even look at it. Let me see.
Yeah, John just said that that there's a rumor that they might be expected to announce reinstatement tomorrow. No back pay. So I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but I was thinking a couple of weeks ago that he might do something like this, because what Adams is doing right now is trying to build a resume and say he did this, before he left. even though
Right.
what the stuff that he's pushing right now isn't going to happen, because you have a new mayor coming in, and the new mayor, he's going to have to answer to the voters, and answer to his own constituents and his own base. So Eric can promise everything, but when it comes to actually implementing, that's going to be up to Mamdani, and Mamdani already said he's not going to bring us back. The other thing is, if they're not going to pull me back, I personally said, there's no way I'm ever going to come back, and you're not going to pay me all the money you owe me for the city, or give me back everything I lost. I will not sign anything. Okay. And that's the hill I'm going to die on. Okay. So if you're watching from 1PP right now, understand that I'm not going along with anything you give me unless it's everything I lost.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Well, it makes sense. He said that his plan was to get 5,000 more cops. He didn't say what his plan is, so obviously that's part of his plan. So I hope people don't fall for it. If you take reinstatement without back pay, I think that's really conceding. I get it. There may be people hurting for jobs, but unfortunately, you have to move on and find a place of happiness. For them to put you back and not give you any back pay is a complete slap in the face. That's a slap in the face. All these years you've suffered and not had to be with the NYPD. Hopefully by now you've adjusted and took this as an opportunity to propel you and move on, because they knocked you down and they're just going to put you right back to work and now put you in a position where Zohran Mamdani's the mayor. And then if you do get a civilian complaint, you could end up getting terminated. So this is just a setup for failure. I'm sorry. I would not take that. I would not take that offer. I mean, you have to continue to fight back. You've been out of the NYPD this long. Don't take those odds. Those odds are working against you.
Yeah. It's what the city likes to do. They're gonna give us, and I think I have a strong belief they'll probably offer it to people who they forced out, like John. I mean, forced out on the threat of termination. But what they'll do, they're gonna give us like a week or two to decide. That's how they work, and they're gonna force you to sign documents where you're gonna basically you're gonna waive your right to litigate them. Now, litigation's been held up in courts, but eventually it's going to break. There's just no way around this, and it's already been broken with Garvey. The city is just dragging their feet with the appeals process, but it's going to break eventually. But what the city wants to do is put you in a position where you're going to make a rational decision now that's going to come back to harm you. For instance, they're going to want you to sign some documents stating that you agree to the terms of reinstatement, which will include things like a psychological test. And as we've already talked about on the show, the whole psychological process with candidate assessment and that division is bogus. Okay. And in my case, what I know they want to do is they'll give you a psychological test and then fail you. And they'll fail you in a way where you've already agreed to the process and you have no way of appealing any of it. Okay. So now they could say, oh, well, listen, we gave him a chance to come back, but he failed the psychological. So there you go. Sorry, guy. So again, I'm not falling for me personally, I'm not falling for any of the city's bullshit, just like with the bullshit when they brought back people. And the guys who came back, who were terminated, who came back, or who returned after vesting, they lost out on a year of their pay. Okay. And they lost out on their contributions. They lost out. A lot of them took their overages. They lost that out. And a lot of them lost out on time. So you lost that 1 year. So you're working an extra year. So some of you guys, so again, this is all bullshit to put you in a compromised position.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. It's a compromised position for any NYPD rank and file that decides to take the job back. I think it's also puts you in a position ultimately for just extreme failure, especially with CCRB. Especially, you may have a target on your back that you were someone that was not in compliance and maybe they'll find something else to terminate you on. I think it's a setup for disaster. I would not take those odds. And those are your rights to litigate. Don't sign any if you're going to take this. Don't sign any paperwork that you're refusing to litigate. I mean, if what they did was legal and had moral principle behind it, why would you have to sign a piece of paper that you would not litigate? Don't fall into that trap, please. I hope that you're not at a point that you're so desperate that you have to take the job. I mean, unfortunately, compliance is scary, and fear is how they get people to comply, and this perception of authority. It's just terrible. And there's a whole world out there. There really is a whole world out there of other law enforcement agencies and other professions that you could find yourself in. It's just a means to make money to support your family. So believe me, especially even if you serve in the NYPD, it's supposed to be a part of your story, not the whole story. So don't let that be your entire story. Absolutely not. And especially putting yourself in such a vulnerable predicament to say, hey, you're welcome back, but you can't have back pay for those years that you were wrong, that completely violated the law by terminating you with no cause. Do you want to go back to that environment anyway? Are you really that hard up? I mean, you deserve better. Honestly, you deserve better. You're better than that. You should see yourself with more value. Look at Marlon. Marlon it was a fantastic detective. He's super intelligent, a great guy. Does a great job with the Finance Unfiltered. There's so many options for him out there, and there's other people just like Marlon that you train with the NYPD. You have other training in life, and you have so much to offer. Don't fall into this trap, please.
Yeah. Like I said, we still haven't gotten over the policy failures of that, and there are all these cops that are walking around that have that vax in them, and you guys are still on the job, and the job is trying to cut your medical care right now. So I see you, area, saying that if you don't want to do what the NYPD required, just move on. Okay, well, you guys did what the NYPD required of you, right? And now the NYPD and the city are trying to take away your health benefits. So, what kind of a reward was that for doing what they said? I mean, to me, it seems like you guys got an even worse end of the deal than I did, because, I mean, you did what they told you to do, and now they're penalizing you for your compliance. So
that's right. Well, listen, we're 2 hours and 2 minutes into it. I want to thank everyone for being with us, our friends, listeners, and discussing the results of the election for New York City and potential for demise. So, unfortunately, I hope everything that we're saying right now is wrong, and I hope that Zohran Mamdani listens to expertise and people that have an understanding of police work, and ultimately, hopefully, this Democratic Party comes to their senses. I highly doubt it, but I do hope that there's some part in the brain in Zohran Mamdani and the rest of the party that actually cares about people and doesn't follow through with these plans and policies, because it's very scary. But before we go, let's address this question, and I think that'll be it for today. HFL, Housing for Life. To both you guys, ideally, what scenario would appease you to the point of going back? Great question. So I have no desire to go back. I would go back for a short term, just in a leadership position, maybe as a commissioner, just to fire some of these coward chiefs and just, get new leadership in there and instill some real leadership training. If I had any opportunity, it would be to possibly be in charge of training just for a short period of time, train police officers on use of force, train them how to, train them on leadership. Absolutely. Leadership, use of force, train them on their finances. Definitely. I think leadership is the most important thing, and that's where it's lacking, because everyone should be a leader at every rank in their role. Other than that, I wouldn't want to go back just as a regular law enforcement officer. Those days are over for me. I enjoy doing this, speaking to the people, having my friends here with the Finance Unfiltered, traveling, doing jiu-jitsu. So for the most part, the answer would be no.
Yes, guys. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget that tonight is Wednesday, So at 5:05, we're going to have the executive perspective with Inspector Layson and Chief Lukash. And according to Ron, who posted in the comments that they're going to be continuing this discussion. I think we're going to be continuing. Well, we're going to be continuing this discussion for a while because there's a lot to dig into, and there's a lot that's incoming. I think we think that there are a lot of things that are due for change, and then there's a lot of problems that Mamdani is coming in to face that are going to kind of be a monkey wrench to all the stuff he's promised. So I think that there's a lot to talk about in this, and we appreciate you guys joining us, and we appreciate the lively chat we had this morning. The chat is moving so fast it's hard to catch up to, and I'll see you guys on Friday. So hope you have a great day today.
Yeah, I just want to say also, thank you so much for the engagement, our friends, listeners, and even the trolls. Outstanding today. It's moving so fast. We didn't get to each one, but I just want to say thank you, everyone, for the coffee and donuts. We appreciate it, as always. So, of course, tonight, the executive perspective, and Thursday, Sal Greco will be back. Friday, I won't be here for the roundtable. And also Monday, I'll be celebrating the Marine Corps birthday and Veterans Day. Thank you, everyone. Your engagement is awesome. We really appreciate it. I have so much gratitude to the people on the chat that spend so much time with us. And a lot of the questions that you pose and statements that you put in this chat are very important. It really drives the engagement in the algorithm, and it drives the conversation. It's really precision driven, and we appreciate that. There's a lot of stuff that comes up in the chat that I may have slipped my mind or didn't get an opportunity to speak about. So with that, I want to thank you guys as always. And of course, we'll keep going. It doesn't matter who won the race. We're still strong New York City people, whether we're still there physically or not. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. Is there anything you want to close with before we get out of here?
No, not at all. Not at all. If you're, guys, take a walk out today, and, if you're being overwhelmed by the changes to the city, take a walk and use this time to fortify yourself. Like I said, I think if we're ever to change the city, it's going to be on the local level. So, like, I've been trying to participate more in my community board. Just go to those meetings, community council meetings. And I think the real change comes from local level. And I think the real change comes from neighborhoods standing up to the big developers and big government and really influencing, like going to community council meetings and letting the CO know that you're looking at the state of your neighborhood and you have an eye on things, and you're not going to let them get away with that BS. And the same thing for your community representatives, your community council representatives. The change comes from local neighborhoods standing up for their neighborhoods. And if every neighborhood gets involved, then eventually that change is going to come citywide. So, use this time to fortify yourself and figure out how, regardless of what changes Mamdani brings, you're going to continue getting better, and it's not going to affect you. You're going to have alternate plans, and you're going to be better. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, well, and the last thing before I forget, of course, check out the QR code if you have not yet. Go to thefinest.unfiltered.com. Please check out our newsletter, and also check out at the bottom of the newsletter, we put in the crime stats that are going on per week as per the NYPD ComStat. And with that, also, check out the articles written by the Finest Unfiltered Network by different team members. I think there's some great articles. And if you want to participate and write an article, please do so. If it's an article based on evidence and fact, or if you want to put an opinion piece, please send it to us. We'll vet it. And also subscribe, not just to the podcast and to the network, but subscribe to thefinestunfiltered.com, to the website. We appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, as always. Listen, it's been a hell of a ride. Thank you, everyone. The Finest Unfiltered. You be good. We'll see you soon.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime. but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?